Hey folks, it's John. You're in the JRB Tree Climbing channel. If you watched my prior video tying the Hedden Knot and Hedden Ascender, I showed you in 22 minutes of detail everything I know about the Hedden Knot and what we can do with it. This is just a quick one reinforcing a point I made in that video that it is a great backup. This is a 3-wrap headen and this is a 4-wrap headen. The headen is tied with a Prusik loop, much like a Prusik. I just published a separate video on testing the Hedden knot. The link is in the video description. Here, tied on 8mm rope, I showed that a Prusik, we're all familiar with, a standard 3-wrap Prusik, slides at approximately half of the force that the 4-wrap Hedden slides at. And their size is roughly the same in terms of how compact they are on the rope. Here in 9.5mm ghillie rope, I showed how a 3-wrap headen will actually hold so tight it'll break the rope, and a 4-wrap headen will do the same, albeit at a higher strength. Let's get right into it. When we are tying a friction hitch as a backup for a mechanical device, the properties that we want are, we want something that is very strong, we want something that is reliable and ready, and something that's easy to tie. If you were really good with tying friction knots and you could handle something as complex as my Longhorn Agile, and you knew the munter, well, you wouldn't be using these devices. You wouldn't be using these devices to begin with. But I'm getting tired of hearing folks saying that their friction device, this one in particular, is slipping on them, especially when the manufacturer recommends that it has a backup. Well, if it needs a backup, how reliable is it? At minimum, if you got the device and you like it, please back it up. It's this simple. Tie a headen. It's like it's not there, but it's always ready. It's always ready to receive a load. It's always ready. Okay, let's see how to tie it. We got to be able to do this blindfolded and in the dark and in seconds. I'm seeing folks recommending backups which require an eye-to-eye and careful balancing of the strands. That's not something we can pull off in the dark, but this is. I'm going to grab my Prusik Loop, and you may be using a short one or a long one. This one here, available from Ape Canyon Outfitters Rockin' Arbor, is 13 inches long, and this one here is 19 inches long. Let's use the short one and zoom in and see how to tie a headen. I will start on the right side working on 9.5mm ghillie rope with a 13-inch Prusik loop. And I'll start by ensuring that the sewn portion will receive load right here where my pinky finger is, and I arrange it such that the sewn part is near that end. I then start right here by pinching my thumb and forefinger to hold this bit of the rope, of the cord, as I pass this around the back 3 times. That's once, twice, 3 times. That's simple. And then I simply pass the working loop through here as they meet. So as they meet, I'm not going to try to go down this way. It's just as the 2 tips meet. And give that a tug, and it's ready to take load. It's that easy to tie and it's that reliable. Now you might assume that a shorter one is better. If you can form it, why would you want to deal with a larger loop? But actually, I believe the opposite is true. So if you are backing up a device like this, and you're on a hunt, and you're changing your position from a sit to a stand, and you want to do so with one hand, well, that's a little difficult. But if you used a longer loop. So this is the 19-inch one. We'll repeat the process. 1, 2, 3. Now, when I bring my mechanical device into view, I'm in a situation now whereby I can leverage that distance here to effectively control my position between a sit and a stand. Let's say that's a stand position and I want to sit. Well, I can leave my head in set, and even if I accidentally completely unbrake this, it's no problem. And I go down right about the right distance to transition from a sit to a stand. So don't assume you need the shortest possible Prusik loop you can find. The longer one actually works quite well. And if you want to customize the length, well, here I have a length of TRC cord, and I can simply tie a headen. It's not closed yet, but I can tie a headen. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go 4 this time. 4. Bring the ends through. Dress it out, and you'll see when I started, I intentionally started so the ends were slightly different lengths. Well, now we can decide exactly how long we want this loop, and we can tie our favorite bend. Now, I have to say, in these kinds of applications, like a backup where you want it to be optimally strong, you might want to tie a sliding triple fisherman's or sliding double fisherman's bend. I've got a video on that. Or you might simply want to use a hunter's bend. But a hunter's bend, I've got a separate video on the hunters, is not as strong as the triple fish. But there we have created a 4-wrap headen out of just a length of cord. Now, on 8mm rope, I always prefer the 4-wrap variant, and that was always my suspicion. I've been waiting to make this video till I could have test data. Please see that brake test video and watch what happens when we put an extreme load on this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bring the standing loop through the starting loop, and it's ready to go. It's ready to go. Now, even though this video was about mechanical backups thus far, well, it applies anywhere. So here I've got my Longhorn Agile hitch. Let's say this was a little too much for you to trust yourself to tie, but you wanted to climb on it. Well, sorry to say, but the same principle applies. If we wanted to back this up, no problem. 1, 2, 3. I'll go with 3. So now let's say you were doing an SRT climb with a Longhorn Agile for the first time. Well, you can put a headen above it and just kind of disregard it. Pretend it's not there. Everything else works the same. But see this nice feature of the Longhorn Agile, with or without the headen. We've got one-handed operation. And with a Munter friction hitch below here, this is breakable under load. With our entire body weight here, we can break this friction hitch and transition into Rappel. When you're working with these devices, I encourage you to think about everything that can go wrong. I want you to think about not only the device slipping, but what happens if the device just got completely jammed up and you couldn't move it at all. it's important that you know how to get on the rope below it so that you can self-rescue and get to safety. So, these failure modes aren't things that probably happen very often, but it's our responsibility to make sure we can always get to ground no matter what the circumstances are. If you'd like to see how to do that, please let me know and I'll be happy to entertain you. In summary, on 8mm rope, I recommend the 4-wrap headen, which will require the longer Prusik loop. On 9.5mm rope, we can use a 3-wrap variant, but the shorter loop is too small to form a 4-wrap headen. We would need the longer loop. It's important for you to realize that if you ever found all of your weight on a headen, it is not breakable under load. We need the skills to be able to get our weight on the rope below it and begin our rappel. See my video on self-rescue after loss of footing, which addresses these very scenarios. Thanks as always for your support, and please be safe.